Paul often uses a phrase that maybe many of us have lots of mixed feelings about. He talks about like in the flesh versus in the spirit in his letters, like these two distinct things. In the translation we heard today, it translates in the flesh as physical advantages. And Paul contrasts what's in the flesh, what are physical advantages or assets, with what is in the spirit, or what in this passage he calls the heavenly or the upward call in Jesus. So we have flesh and spirit, physical advantages, upward call, or other words that might fit for that, temporal things, eternal things. Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism make a similar distinction between those things that are always changing, that are in flux, and then the things that are permanent and unchanging. For Paul, our rules and our power and our strength, our attempts to gain, are rooted in a world that is in flux. We can seem to master our environment, we can seem to have all the physical advantages, but in the end, there's so much we don't master. We come to a point of having to grapple with the limits of our control. We come to a point of having to grapple with loss. There are many forms and degrees of loss. They can't all be conflated. But whatever the degree, Paul finds, and he's reflecting on this in this passage, that our losses have the potential to bring us to places where we find something deeper and more powerful than anything else. That's what happened for him. This kind of realization is also the basis of modern spiritual approaches like the ones that undergird AA and other 12-step programs. We have a couple of 12-step groups that meet here in the church. And whichever kind of group you're in, the 12 steps begin with a humbling admission. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol or over nicotine or over our loved ones' behaviors. We admitted we were powerless and that our lives had become unmanageable. Though that line comes from recovery, I think it's an insight that applies to most of us in some way with something in our life. That it's a spiritual insight that we share. This first step is not one that's about despair, but it's one that's about honesty. The kind of honesty that opens up the door to grace. Because when we name our powerlessness, we make room for a power beyond us. We ease our grasp for control and begin to trust that there is one who holds us. We find that we don't depend on the things that we so often think we depend on. We find that there is a being who sustains us and cares for us, much more than those other things that we might mistake for sustaining us and providing the things we need.